analysis. I'm glad you can join me. I apologize for missing last night. I actually had my daughter's 40th birthday, and happy birthday. And I didn't get back from the city till very late. And again, I apologize. We'll be back on schedule next Thursday night, 8 p.m. And don't forget, I will be having a election day or election evening podcast on the 5th. That'll be interesting as well. Okay, so this is part 3 in my series about religion and politics. And I talked a little bit in the first 2 videos about sort of the trends, what was going on. And I kind of highlighted evangelicalism, Christian nationalism, because really this has been prevalent in our election politics recently. Donald Trump went after the right-wing Christian vote. And as I mentioned, they heavily vote Republican, about 80% of the time. Now, how did this get to this point? Because ultimately, nationalism has become a thing in many Western countries. We want to protect our country, make it great somehow, and protect our borders. And these are amiable things, don't get me wrong. We've had some issues here. But it turns out that many, if not most of the, how do I want to say this? Most of the concerns people have are ideological, are in many ways cultural, and in even more specific ways religious. Abortion, prayer in schools, the border, which really isn't so much a Christian theme, but we use it as a tool to blame the other side, in this case the Republicans, blaming the Democrats that we have open borders. Of course, now keep in mind both parties have been behind us for many years. The president does have some authority here, but the reality is Congress has to make the laws that kind of govern how we handle our borders. So people then rely completely on the president because they know Congress is going to be useless. In fact, they are useless. So for this particular election, the ideologues, those that now look at our politics through ideological lenses, those right-wing people love Donald Trump. He tells them he's going to shut the borders off. He tells them he's going to, stop abortion. He did, get it to the Supreme Court the last time he was in office, and they did rule to send it back to the states, but he didn't solve the abortion problem. He won't, and he can't. Prayer in schools is another thing I mentioned. Again, as I said in my very first video, these social issues, which can be religious issues in a big way, cannot be solved by government. Henceforth, we're in a quandary, left versus right, liberal versus conservative, Democrat versus Republican. Funny that it's to this point. Okay, so we're now T-minus, 5 days and counting. And we are looking at a battle, a war of ideologies. Now, many years ago, and I think this pretty much happened under Ronald Reagan, that we started this ideological battle within our own country to a small degree, but with the rest of the world. Now, I want you to consider what I'm going to say today as a commentary, not to be mean or vicious to anybody, of course. It's a cautionary tale, especially for those of us who consider ourselves Christians. There's much more expected from us, okay? And from what I've seen, we're giving a lot less than we should be to this battle. Not in the fact that we're not waging enough war, but the fact that we are waging war. Okay? And I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so now with these 5 days, my question I have for you today is, did culture influence politics, or does politics influence culture? Now, of course, this is a conundrum. It's a riddle. The reality is that today, culture and politics go together like peanut butter and jelly. We've melded them. We've not able to separate these two ideas. And of course, for Christians, it gets more complex than that. We bring God into it. And we know that God is involved in our lives and in our country, but unlike the Old Testament, he's more concerned about us individually. Now, we have a country that we're supposed to vote and we're supposed to stand up for what's right. But it's now getting to a point where we are on an all-out war against people who are just like us. Maybe many of them have different ideas or different opinions, but not all of them are what's being said about them on social media, YouTube channels, and videos, in pulpits across the nation. As I mentioned in my second video on this topic, Christian pastors have come out and said that these people are baby killers, murderers, communists. They've named every name you could get and find against Democrats. Now, I know a lot of Democrats, and believe me, I don't know any of them that are really baby killers, murderers, or any of these things. Most of them are like you and me. There are some ideological differences, but for the most part, they believe in life. Many of them don't believe that abortion should take place up until you're 25 years old, as I made a remark yesterday or last time jokingly about that. We know there should be limits. We know there should be control. But we also know that you can't stop it under the way the world is today. And as I mentioned in part one, when you're dealing with Christian values and morals, that has to be taught by parents to their children, okay? The church failed. The church failed miserably. Today, the church barely exists in many locations. They have buildings and a few people that go in, mostly old. The super churches are there to powder your behinds and play music. I'm not saying that they're not Christians, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm saying that their effect on culture is more pointing fingers, more judgmental than anything else. So let's kind of go down here. Right recently, and I'm going to start here because I heard this and I saw this on Facebook, and I've heard other people talk about it. Now, I didn't read and listen to the video, but I guess Joe Biden, the soon-to-be out-of-a-job president of the United States, made mention of garbage. People were garbage. Now, I saw on Facebook, and I don't remember who it was, they joked about him saying this. And it occurred to me what they were joking about was that, he said that about us. I am garbage. Yay, Donald Trump. Again, I'm a political atheist. I'm not here to just pick a side. I will criticize each side. There just happens to be a lot more to deal with when you're dealing with conservative rights and Christians and this whole Christian nationalist theme that I'm going to be more investigating the right side of this political spectrum. And, here's my point with this Trump thing. The reason Biden reacted was because of what was said at the Trump rally in New York. A comedian named Tony Hinchcliffe, he had a few tasteless jokes, I guess, about Latinos, love-making babies, they called them. He likened their presidents to an invasion of the country. And, of course, he was told by Joe Rogan, my understanding was, don't tell these jokes. They're a poor taste. But like many things at these rallies, it does get more and more personal. It gets more and more violent. And, yes, it does. And it bothers me that it does. See, this ideological war, this wasn't hatched by Republicans or Democrats. This was hatched by, I truly believe, by the groups of people, the deep state beyond, the elites, in a way to make sure that America fractures in a way that it's never going to be repairable. And the things being said, this is my point with this whole series, the things being said by Christians whose mentor, who follow Jesus Christ and his teachings, I can't see the resemblance. I can't see the connection. And I'm not saying that everyone's like this, but I've heard enough to know that the arrogance and anger and this spitefulness has grown within this nationalist community especially, and I'm trying to be fair about it, but as a Christian, I'm ashamed. I have my things to say. I'm not a Kamala Harris fan. I'm not a Democrat Party fan. I'm not a Republican Party fan. In fact, I'm going to give you some little details that's going to kind of fracture your little world, I think. But we've been kind of melding the basically the right wing of the Republican Party now with Christian nationalism. They've intersected. And now we've drawn God into the mix. And this is where I'm going to go. You see, America has a mythology about it now. Oh, it's a mythology. It's almost like the Greeks and the Romans and the mythology behind the gods there and the mythology behind leaders and things that have happened over this world. And over time, we've become that in a very short time. Nothing like the other empires. And of course, as I've mentioned in other videos, this is an empire, a falling apart empire. So we've created this mythology since World War II that we, won World War II. See, we've made this claim and we've implied it many, many times. In fact, when many leaders have gone to the celebration, no one ever mentions the other countries that fought and had people die, especially the Russians, who lost millions of people in that war, who were in one of the most important armies to come against Hitler that actually fractured Hitler. These people also should be congratulated, but we don't. America is the country we raise up and say, America won the war. No. America won the war because we were better and more powerful. And as time went on, and of course after World War II, America got a bonus. And I've said this in another video, that America was not touched physically by the war except for Pearl Harbor. The 99% of the country was intact. After the war, our economy was intact. Our financial system was still intact. So we were given the blessing of having the world's reserve currency. Huge advantages. It helped us build the country we have today. Everybody tells me, well, everybody wants to come here because we were so great. Well, we were great because we were fortunate. We were blessed. Now, it doesn't mean that we were put up on a pedestal where we should have been. We just happened to be that country standing. We then made a deal with the Saudis to use the U.S. dollar as the currency of trade for oil. Again, helping us economically and financially. Made us where we're at today. Excuse me. Made us who we are today. Everybody wants to say that, that we are so smart and so much better than everybody else. But here we go with arrogance again. Imagine if you're one of the other countries in the world listening to this and over time realizing that the United States will use and abuse anybody in its way from continuing to be this hegemonic power, this number one country that runs everything, that controls everything, that's smart and rich and can do anything they want. And our politicians, whether it's Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or whoever, they must follow in line with this, and they will. They will continue the legend, the myth of the United States government. And now you add Christianity to it. So now we not only have enemies from without, we have enemies within. Pro-abortion people, LGBTQ people. What else does I have on here? Illegal aliens, people who refuse to let Christians pray in school. Go down the list of enemies. All these are cultural issues. All these are really issues that should be solved within the culture, not within politics. Okay? Now, you can say with the border, yeah, that's a political issue because there has to be laws made. No, it is not a completely open border. There is still people being stopped. It isn't a flood. That has been a lie. I've looked into that. But there still still are people coming across. Yeah, I would like to see people have a way to prevent from being flooded. I would like to see people have background checks. So I'd like to know who's here. This, again, is a failure of government. Actually, both parties. Yes, both parties. And I know I'm going to hear that's not true, but it is true. Because you see, again, If you haven't researched it, you don't know. If you're just reading some Fox News article or Newsmax, or you're hearing, from some guy that heard it from some girl who heard it from some other guy, you're getting parts and pieces of the puzzle. But really, illegal immigration isn't the biggest issue here. Neither is abortion, neither is prayer in a school. The Christian church has to deal with part of those situations. They have to deal with prayer in the schools. No, they have to deal with prayer in the home. And I mentioned this before. If you want people to pray and your children to pray, raise them up to pray. When they go to school, you don't need to stand in front of the room and pray. You don't need the government to tell you you can pray. If your child wants to have an abortion, then first of all, they have to know that there's issues with sex before marriage, that you have to be able to protect yourself, use common sense, and understand that life is precious. It's not something to be played with. What helps, I would believe, helps them, this is with my children, understand that there's more to it than just, I'm okay, I'm going to go to an abortion clinic. But today, the answer is, I'm just going to go to an abortion clinic because there's nobody backfilling them with truth and love and understanding. Faith is gone. The church has crumbled. All these things are a failure of the church. No one wants to talk about it within the church very often because we didn't do anything wrong. We're now searching for bad guys from without. You see, they don't want to look in the mirror and say, we failed our children. We failed this country. We expect the government to police everything. And guess what they're going to do? Under Donald Trump or under Kamala Harris, they're going to police you. Oh, are they going to police you? Both want to increase stricter guidelines on law enforcement, not just on bad people, but you as good people. You that have rights under the amendments of the Constitution, both Trump and Kamala Harris want to change those to be more authoritative. In fact, in fact, Judge Napolitano, if you don't know who he is, you should. He was on Fox News. He's basically a constitutional judge, a lawyer. One of the best people I've ever heard and was able to follow. And from start to finish, has a great YouTube channel. And he will tell you, how freedom is being sifted away and will sift away more from what was even released by the Trump administration and the Harris administration, or should I say their campaigns. These people aren't going to, care that people's rights are trampled on. They're going to do what they think's best for their voting stature. That people in America want a tough person. They want someone to come be tough on crime. They want an authoritative figure to tell us what to do and what we can't do. And just do it no matter what. Whether it's illegal or not, get it done for us to protect us from evil people within our country and evil people that are kind of trying to destroy us from outside our country. This is what we're in for. This is what we have. You can see it now. So there's been an intertwining of Christian nationalism and the right wing. And now it's like that God is ordaining leaders. That God is for America. You'll see flags like this. Reality is I went to Scripture and tried to find where America was there, where American flags were there, where Jesus was a politician, where he supported a candidate. He didn't have pro-Caesar rallies. He wasn't handing out flyers. None of that exists in Christianity. In true Christianity. If you got to have me explain what his policy would be for today, go read the first 4 books of the New Testament. You'll find that he wasn't shouting and screaming, and the hatred wasn't there. He wasn't pointing fingers at average Joes who had their own little world. He was loving them and preaching to them and trying to lead them into the truth. But instead, we have today is fire and brimstone, judgment, anger. We're going to take America back. We're America first. Okay, America's never been second. I'm going to go on the record as saying that. We've had everything our little hearts ever wanted here. Money, power, freedom, the wealth factor, food. We've had all this stuff, and we squandered it. And yet, these people want to come and say, we got to get it all back. Well, you had your chance. You went 36 trillion in debt. You fought wars against people you should have had no business doing. You've murdered people, droned people. You've sanctioned countries where children can't even get medicine in certain countries because of U.S. sanctions, because we're going to make sure you do what we want. And Christians stand for that. See, Christians have become many times, and I'm not trying to be evil here or mean. Christians are now on the side of those TV shows and movies. You know, the movies where the good guy comes out and kills everybody. Remember George Bush? I've said this 100 times. We wanted to go and attack Afghanistan. You're either on the side of us or the terrorists. You see, that's a way to make a line divided. That's a way that you either for me or you're going to be outcast. Whether it's the right thing to do. Of course, he went to Afghanistan, and 22 years later and $2 trillion and all the damage it caused and all the problems we've had, what did we solve? Trying to get one guy that we didn't get. Maybe we got. Maybe. I hope you understand where I'm going with this, people. See, this isn't about me being mad at you, me not agreeing with everybody. It's about me believing that as a Christian, we have to separate ourselves from the government, from politics, to a degree that we don't start creating an atmosphere, the same type of atmosphere that deteriorated in Germany in 1943. I know people will get mad at me saying that, but that's where it always starts. Take our freedoms away. We want protected. Okay? Everybody outside of our country is a bad guy. It's interesting how we fight wars. All of them. The mythology of the American military, okay? We went into Afghanistan and Iraq. Didn't win really either of them. Okay? Didn't win either war. Still there. Bases there. George Bush went on an aircraft carrier. We won. Well, we didn't. No, we didn't. We have a mythology that we are who we think we are, but we're not who we think we are. The world is changing rapidly. I've explained this to you multiple times, and recently I have a video, the BRICS meeting, the most important meeting no one's ever heard of here in the country. No one wants to talk about it. Some people know about it, but they don't let it sink in. The American superpower that we knew is crumbling. We now live in a multipolar world. That means there are more than one country that now can be considered a superpower with a super economy. More are growing every year, every 5 years. We will be one of many. Of course, that will hurt our economy. That will hurt our dollar. That will hurt our buying power. Because as people pull away from using the dollar and the system we control, we will have less authority and less ability to sanction people, to attack people. Militaries are evening up now. More and more powerful militaries exist in this world that are evening out because of technology. We are a broke, bankrupt country. So those of you who want to sit there and believe that somehow God is putting us, like Ronald Reagan said, that city on the hill, that bright city on the hill. No, we were never that. We were just a country who, since the 1960s, began basically a new vision quest to stay number one. Because even then, we knew that our days as an empire were numbered. They knew that. And they had a doctrine called the Wolfowitz Doctrine. Look it up. He was a Secretary of State, I believe, and he believed as a neoconservative that America should never allow any other country to rise above our stature, which means we will fight, kill, murder, destroy, do whatever it takes. And too many people are more than willing to go along with it. Do you know 90%, 95% of Congress really agrees on the three most important things? While you're fighting over abortion, illegal immigrants, and what else? In the past, it was prayer in the schools. While we're fighting over these terms, you know what they're worried about? Putting money in their pocket. The security state, the military-industrial security state is only growing. Donald Trump's boy Vance is part of that security state. He's a tech guy. They all are in for the same reason, to control more and more of your information and make it less and less safe for you to be anybody but who they want you to be, because you'll be targeted. It was Trump that signed the National Defense Authorization Act, the Homeland Security Act, against the wishes of people like myself, who said it is an act that has declared war on the American citizen. But he signed it anyway. You know why? Because he wants that control as well. I'm sure Kamala Harris, because Joe Biden did the same thing, because it is a powerful tool against the American citizen to keep you in line. What else are these people all in the same boat? All of Congress, including the president of the United States, and I'm sure it's going to be either Trump or Kamala Harris will believe the same. Military, industrial complex, the security state, growth and power. The second one is debt. They will continue to print debt. I know I've just talked to a couple of people that Donald Trump has this Bitcoin plan and a blockchain plan. That's all baloney. Listen, I hate to say it that way. You're $36 trillion in debt. You're limited to what you can do now. You're broke. You're bankrupt. Everything's crumbling, and all the statistics I've seen over the last years just shows that we're being held together by, guess what? Debt. And debt is a demonic thing. It's a Rothschild tool to enslave the world in debt. And we're enslaved. And both the candidates that you're going to vote for, one or the other, are going to continue to create debt. They're going to give you tax breaks. They're going to give you maybe more checks in the mail. Who knows? Because, you see, that's the only way to keep the natives, us, from wanting to get off the reservation, from being angry, for protesting, for asking questions. What's the third thing? Number three is that war. Yes, war. No matter who's in office, we will be at war. If Kamala Harris gets elected, we will continue the war in Ukraine and continue funding the war in the Middle East. We will continue with our war against China. Okay? Those are all war fronts of one sort or another, no matter who's winning. Now, Donald Trump, I guarantee you, if we go to war, will bomb Iran. In fact, Rudy Giuliani, the disgraced ex-governor of New York, was at a rally saying just that. In fact, this is how sad it is. He was likening 2-year-old Palestinian children to terrorists, that they are trained to kill Americans at the age of 2. This is right-wing crazy talk. This is my point. Now, if you believe it, I'm sorry. I feel bad. See, but it gives us the leeway to say it's okay that people are bombed in hospitals because they're terrorists. It's okay to attack Iraq because they're terrorists. We went to Afghanistan because they're all terrorists. There's terrorists everywhere. We got to kill them. We got to sort them out. Sort them out. Kill them all and let God sort them out, right? That's the thing. That's Jesus speaking, right? Christians, that's Jesus speaking. I would love to see the expression on the Lord's face when you sat down and told him we had to kill those little Palestinian kids because they're terrorists. They're trained to kill Americans at 2. I want to see the look on his face. But we okay with it. We're okay with it. Believe me, we are. There's Christians all over that are okay with it. All over the place. Not 1 or 2. You should be ashamed. This rhetoric, this crazy talk. War. So Giuliani said we should bomb Iran because they'll get us first. I follow every analyst, every news feed, every place that talks geopolitics, armaments, war. Nobody has ever said that. That's farthest from the truth. That was never going to happen. See, here's the thing. You can believe it if you want. That's fine. I don't care. But from here on, you're going to hear on this channel what's reality, what makes sense. Iran is in business. They're in business with tons of other countries selling oil. They don't have a nuclear weapon yet. They could, but they don't. They forewent that, my understanding, from resources that I have and from other resources that are in sites across this world. But you see, we only listen to what Americans say, what Newsmax says or Fox News. They're going to get us. You know, there was this old adage, they said, if we don't get them over there, fight them there, they'll come over here. So what they're talking about is terrorist cells maybe, or maybe they're driving up through the ocean with Toyota pickup trucks with machine guns and attacking us that way. These are all very unlikely scenarios. We're waiting every day for a terrorist attack, for these mass attacks by illegal immigrants. Very few. I've looked. There's very few. For the numbers we're saying, there's very few. Now, believe me, I'm not big on illegal immigration. I'm not. But let's be realistic, people. We just run with it because it feels good. We need that bad guy. We need him. I used to call it a straw man. You hang him up and you burn him in effigy. That's the bad guy. Putin, Xi, and Kim Jong-un, Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, all these bad guys needed. Kill them! Well, the last story I'm going to tell you today is General Wesley Clark. You've heard of him. He's a decorated war veteran, and he went to the Pentagon. And the story he tells, and you can find this on YouTube, the story he tells, an aide of his told him that we were going to go to war with Iraq. And General Clark says, why? And the aide said, I don't know, General. You know, he said, was it connected to Al-Qaeda? Is it connected to all this? He goes, no, there's no connection. There's nothing. But why are we going to war with them? Well, he comes back a couple weeks later, I think, and the same aide goes, we're going to go to war with 7 countries, overthrow them in the Middle East. He goes, why? He says, maybe every problem looks like a nail. We're going to hammer it. Why was that the issue? Why are we doing that? And I'm going to give you some tips here right now as to why it's important to divide the country, why it's important to have those right-wing people, why it's important to have Christian nationalism, why it's important to have a divided nation that's as divided as it is today. Here's why. See, for America to stay on top, they need to go to war. They need to murder, kill, destroy, sanction. That's what we need to do. There's no other way. Our time's running out. The times of sand are sifting through the hourglass. Now, the bad news is there's no stopping it. That's the truth. But those in the military, industrial complex, those in the State Department, in the deep state, in the permanent government, and the puppets that are hired as president, that are, elected as president, will go in and, have to follow along. Yeah, we can't let American hegemony be destroyed. I'm the keeper of it. Let's go to war. And that's what we will do. Middle East is a prime example. Number one, Iran is going to be the next predominant power in the Middle East. It's a massive country, highly technological, bright people. The Persians are very bright people. A great military, high-tech weapons, and has a lot of oil. And they will become that predominant power. And, of course, they've signed treaties or will be signing a treaty with Russia. They already signed treaties with China to trade. The United States can't allow that to happen. So our puppet government in Israel has to win. We have to attack. We have to destroy them. We have to take them off the list. Excuse me. Yeah, the list. Oh, you didn't know about the list. That's China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, probably India now. Go down that list. Saudi Arabia now, Turkey. All these groups that are sort of turning against us. All these groups that are now becoming part of a multipolar world, joining together in the BRICS economic union, joining together to come up with a new way to purchase things intercontinentally through countries. And they have done that. Now you don't need the SWIFT system, which is a system the United States and Belgium and the whole world used to buy products from different nations. You need a system to do it. The BRICS has a new system. They don't need SWIFT anymore. So that means they can't be blackmailed or sanctioned or anything else. Okay, so This whole system in place is making these countries enemies. Russia was the first one. We needed to destroy Russia because they now are in a relationship with China, making them a powerful bloc. It's a defense and economic relationship. So we had to destroy them. We're not. We lost that war. Who knows what's going to happen in the Middle East? And China, what are we doing? We're trying our best to knock off the other top guys and just leave China there standing alone. You see where I'm going with this? It's a chess game. It's a chess game we're badly losing. Now, as an American citizen, do I want to see that? Not really. But I'd rather see peace. I'd rather see harmony. But we know, for those of you that are Christians, that there's a time coming. Now, too many Christians look at this time coming as it's right this second. Any second, hide, dig a hole in the ground and hide. Well, that's not what Jesus told me. He says, shine your light. Go out into the world. Live your life. Don't be afraid. When the time comes, the time comes. He's going to handle it the way he's going to handle it. I don't need to push him along. I don't need to start a battle cry. I don't need to attack everybody that doesn't think like me. In fact, I'm supposed to love them and preach to them and help them. And if it doesn't work, you shake the dust off your feet and you go to the next person. See, it's people, one person at a time. Not everybody's out to get us. Not everybody's out to murder and destroy us. And one person told me that Russia and India and China and North Korea are all out to get the United States. They're going to get us. See, in the way, they were right. But the way they were saying it wasn't right. It was as if that was a bad thing. That's life, people. You start a business up and you're on the corner for 10 years and a new company goes across the street, you got competition. May the best company win. Now, maybe they have advantages. Maybe they cheat a little bit on it. I don't know. But the point is, that's life. We just can't figure it out. We can't figure it out because we can't get past the mythology. Christians can't. That's my problem. They can't get past this legendary thought of Jesus and the United States with a flag in his hand and marching with us. That's absurd. And if you don't think so, I don't know what to say, because I don't see that anywhere in Scripture. No, we're not Israel. We're not Old Testament. We are a new covenant with Jesus Christ. He wants to see how we do, how we react, how we handle these situations. He doesn't want us to have a war charge and a battle cry and go screaming into the, because if you want the war, hey, people, I'm talking to you that want these wars, that think it's okay to do it. I'll set up a collection for you. We'll get you a uniform and a little rifle. I don't care how old you are. We're going to get you. And I'll make sure we can get transportation for you to go to the battlefront. If that's what you want, that's what you'll get. So be careful what you wish for in this election. Be careful what these people do, because they want to go to war right off the bat. And if you don't disagree with them, you're part of the problem. And 90% of those yahoos you voted for in Congress all will vote to go for war, if they even had a vote for it. They sign every package that they can to send money overseas to every war that's contradictory to what we should be doing. That's contradictory to what we should be as a nation. A diplomatic nation, with our hand out, being able to solve problems, not at the point of a gun, but at the tip of a pen. Instead, we want to go to war not to help anybody, but not for freedom, but to make sure we stay on top. And those 90% of those Congress people, 95% of those Congress people, by the way, they're getting richer than you'll ever dream of while they do it. And we keep voting them in. New ones, old ones, it doesn't matter. The system's broken. And until you realize that, no matter if nationalism or any of this is going to work, you got to get with the program. The world's changing. It's been ordained to change. It's going to change. And it's not in our favor. We had our time. The empire is collapsing, like our economy, like our moral innards, like our culture. And you may not like it, but you have to adapt and prepare. I've been saying this for a long time. And hating people because they're a Democrat or Republican, hating people because they disagree with you, is ridiculous. Mother against father, brother against brother, friends, wives against husbands. This has caused nothing but destruction for our society, the hatred in this ideology. Listen, it's all the time I'm going to give today. Thanks for joining me on this late live stream. Again, I apologize for last Thursday. I tried to get this together today. I will be live on Tuesday night. I'll have a video on Monday, be live Tuesday for the election. Hopefully I can get through the whole night, and we'll get maybe a glimpse of who might win that election. Have some conversation in between. Don't forget, my point is here, Jesus is solves every problem in your heart. He will give you the guidance you need to understand what's happening. He'll give you the guidance that you need to what you should be doing. That's how it works. Leave hate out of it. Hey, God loves you. God bless you. And I'll see you next time. Where? Right here on the Tom Sick Analysis. It's one crazy world.